Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Tracy Cram Perkins, and our show today is Dementia Home Care. And I invite you to subscribe to our USA Global TV YouTube channel. I'm also the author of Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. And joining me today is our very special guest, Loretta Veney. She's the author of Being My Mom's Mom: A Journey Through Dementia from a Daughter's Perspective. And Loretta is also a Lego Serious Play instructor. So welcome, Loretta.
Thank you so much for having me.
So can you tell us a little about your background so that our audience gets to know you?
Sure. So I've been a speaker since probably 2013. My first book, Being My Mom's Mom, was published. And my mom was diagnosed with dementia in 2006. So we had a really incredible 16-year journey before she passed in January of 2022. So I wrote a couple of other books along the way as well. One, a sort of pictorial book for inspiring caregivers that my husband and I took the pictures around the world, so to speak, and we added inspirational sayings to each of the photos to help caregivers on sort of their down days. And then my mom and I did a coloring book together called Colors Flowing from Your Mind in 2017 for her 90th birthday. So been really busy speaking and traveling and helping to inspire caregivers. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, one of the things I love about you is the fact that you go around talking to groups and teaching people about Lego Serious Play. I mean, that I'm just so jazzed about that. Can you tell our audience what you do with Lego Serious Play?
Sure. So when I was 5, my mom gave me our first Lego set, and it really just kind of took off from there. So we had been building with Lego for my entire life from that period on. And as opposed to some teenagers, sort of pulling away from their parents, we kept building through my teenage years and into adulthood. I used Lego throughout my 40-year security career for tabletop exercises and all kinds of things like that, evacuation drills. It's so much easier to evacuate little Lego people and then find out that's not a good exit. The exit is blocked during the day, so it's easier to kill off some little Lego people rather than having that happen in real life. So it was a wonderful tool. People loved it. Everybody hates drills, so people loved the Lego drills. And so it was so realistic and everything. And so we just carried that forward with my mom. And one of the things I noticed, even as a teenager, Lego helped my mother find her words. She's was very different from me, didn't like people, that much and all that. And so Lego kept us connected. So when my mom was diagnosed in 2006, probably one of the best examples I can give you how powerful a tool Lego can be. When we got in the car after her diagnosis, I asked her how she was feeling. And all I got was a kind of inaudible thing. And I asked her then to build how she was feeling. And, everybody loves these little Lego people. And, I asked my mom, how, it sort of felt to, have this, kind of terrible diagnosis. And she took the head off that little Lego person and held it up, and she said, I feel like in several years I'm going to lose my head. And what an amazing way for her to be able to express that. And I remember putting it on LinkedIn, and people just went crazy, like, oh man, what an amazing way for her to sort of describe that feeling. And she was always like that with Lego. She could describe different things. She could say exactly how it made her feel. So in 2014, when she forgot who I was and what our relationship was, I had been watching something out of Lego headquarters called Lego Serious Play. And it was designed actually for organizations to communicate more effectively with each other, throughout teams, and to sort of streamline some of their processes and just be a better overall performing, sort of listening, sharing kind of thing. And I had looked at it for a long time, and I had thought about taking it, but when she forgot who I was, that was sort of the point for me. Like, okay, I'm doing it. And so I went from DC to Charlotte, North Carolina, and took the class. It was almost a week-long class from one of the creators of Lego Serious Play, Robert Rasmussen. And it was one of the best weeks like ever. And it really did give me a lot of strategies that I'd be able to use, with my mom. And of course, one of the things, of course, you always want to do is what your mother tells you. And so my mom used to always tell us, you should always, when you find a strategy that works, you should always share it with other people. So I started, in addition to doing Lego Serious Play with my mom, I started doing it with other people with cognitive decline and dementia, Alzheimer's. I started going to adult day programs and, memory care, assisted living facilities, and sharing it with lots of other people. So that sort of carried us forward. And it just has a few parts to it. You give everybody a task. Everybody agrees to build what that task is. And a lot of times I have people build joy. And then everybody shares what they build. And then we kind of talk about what we've heard. Are there themes? Are there questions? Why did you use that color brick? That kind of thing. And it is an amazing tool for both those with dementia and the folks that care for them. So it's just been an amazing journey doing the whole Lego Serious Play thing. And I'm probably, there are not that many people using it for this purpose, but it was right up my alley, because one of the things that is fabulous about Lego Serious Play, it was designed so that everyone is included and all voices are heard. Isn't that cool? It does not say all voices except those with dementia. So see, that was perfect. Absolutely perfect for me. So I just went forward and carried on.
Oh, that's fantastic. So when did you first start getting out and teaching people Lego Serious Play?
So, it started pretty slowly. So I took the course in 2014, and I was really on the speaking circuit then. So I did probably very few on the road teaching other people things until probably right before the pandemic. I did a couple of really big things at a couple of adult day programs, one of them in Harrisonburg, Virginia, where I did a 9-hour project of building a world without Alzheimer's at an intergenerational center with pre-K and adult day. So there you go. And they were building together. And, when everybody shared what they built, we would start off in a world without Alzheimer's, and they would hold up their little thing that they built, and they would do it. And one example, a little girl stole the show. She, built a bus. She held it up. I taught them the day before what Alzheimer's was. And she held up her little bus. And she said, in a world without Alzheimer's, my grandma would remember, how to ride the bus and what stop to get off. Everybody was like, yay. I mean, that's so amazing that, you could really process that. So the staff built, the adults in adult day built, and then all the classes of pre-K little kids built. And then, so when the parents and adult kids dropped their loved ones off in the morning, the table was totally empty with just the little Lego plates on them. And then 9 hours later, when they come back to pick everybody up, people were like, wow, look at that. So it was so cool. And so I would say 2018, 2019, that's when I really got out there and started doing the teaching in addition to the speaking. And so now I would say the Lego is, sort of half and half with my speaking business. And that's what I, kind of always wanted. And it's so funny because TSA has kind of named me the Lego woman. So I go through, he's like, oh, there's that woman. Are those Lego bricks in there? Do you get paid to do this? Is this your job? And there's been twice, I'm not kidding, I spoke it on aging, I guess a couple of weeks ago now, and I'm looking at the exhibits and the vendors like everybody else, and all of a sudden this man yells out, "It's the Lego lady!" And everybody's looking around like, where? And so people come running over, he's taking pictures. It's hysterical. And so that's my thing. And he had seen me speak somewhere in Pennsylvania at some point. And that's my thing. And I have my Lego earrings. And, I did a thing in St. Louis using Lego Serious Play. And it was a whole group of Episcopal priests. That's a long story. But what was funny is I went to the Florida Everglades on this tour with some, RVing friends of mine. And, we're waiting to get on the boat and other people are getting off the boat. And then same thing. One of the ladies that was in the St. Louis class says, "It's the Lego lady." So all my tour guides are like, "Oh, what's the Lego lady?" And so she's explaining, "Oh, she's famous. She's famous. Google her." So the whole tour group is Googling me. And they're like, "Wow, look at this. It's so funny. Oh, you should have told us you were famous before we set off on our trip." But it was just so funny. And so, I guess I'm thrilled to be the Lego lady. And, but, in all seriousness, it has just been a profound experience for me because people say that, they've uncovered things they didn't know with their loved ones. They'll tell stories while they're building that family has not heard, previously. So, it's evident when the building is being done, it's evident how powerful a tool it really is. And, on LinkedIn and, other social media, you never know who's reading what you post or whatever. But man, I don't know how many people, but lots of people were clearly watching. And so when my mother died, I, of course, put it on LinkedIn. And Wonder Woman, we had named her because, hospice was always saying she was dying and then she never died. And so, when she finally did die, I put it up, of course, and all these people just came out of the woodwork and responded, "Oh, you taught me so much. And I went and bought Lego bricks and my grandma talked again." I mean, people who had never commented on anything. And we kept trying to print out, some of the, things people had written. And my mother always wanted to travel and never did. And so that was, just amazing that in dementia, she went around the world. And so when she, passed away, we got condolences from 18 different countries, Sri Lanka, Qatar, most people didn't even know where that was until the soccer thing a few months ago. And so you never know, the people that you're touching or, the impact you're actually having on people. So it's crazy good, as I like to say. So what a journey it's been.
That is so amazing. Well, I did read your post when you posted that your mom had passed. And I have to say that I was really inspired by all the things that you were doing with your mom. And I saw one place that you talked about fidget toys, Lego fidget toys. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Because it was such a calming influence, I'm not against drugs per se, but I hate when, the first thing people think about is to give them a drug to calm them down and keep them kind of quiet and that kind of thing. It's not what I wanted to do. And so since Lego had such an impact on her, I had Legos everywhere. And so, in the car, all around the house. But one of the things that I always wanted to do is, have things that she could, fidget with, and especially in places where, you wanted to control whatever behavioral challenges, that sort of manifests itself in this disease. And so one of the things that we never was able to explain at one point for like almost 2 years, my mother would read everything out loud. everything. So you'd be in CVS and she'd be in one of the aisles, KO pectate for diarrhea. People are like, what? And so in order to stop that, and the neurologist, nobody knew why that was happening. It was like, okay, one day she'll just stop doing it as quickly as she, started doing it. Like, okay. So in the meantime, I built some Lego things for her. This is a little revolving kind of windmill, and it doesn't, really make noise, and, she could play it and twist it and that. And this was a Lego house she made in 2014. You can see the doors open and the windows, and it was just something to keep her hands busy. I did have a couple of things that clicked and twisted and spun around as well. And so that was all about just honestly preventing her from, reading everything out loud in the doctor's office, disturbing other people, because, she had this really loud, monotone voice as the disease progressed, and didn't want to scare people and all that. So just to be honest, that was why it was created. But then other people wanted some for their loved ones too. So, I was making them, for a while before I got really busy, but they were very helpful, I think. And in the car, especially, living in the Washington, D.C. area, there's always traffic. And so when my mother got to the point where she would say over and over, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home. When she had the Lego bricks in her hand, she not only didn't repeat things, she rarely talked at all. She just was mesmerized by the colors, and, her eyes were so focused. And, what we have found is that no research per se, but, the deeper they go into the disease, the more the bright colors, really engross them. And so I used the brightest of colors and things. And what's interesting about the Lego Serious Play bag of bricks, Lego does make a kit for Lego Serious Play called the Explorations bag. That's a really cool title. And I did use that kit for a while, but I ended up making my own kit. I call it the Inspiration Kit, because I want people to be uplifted. So it had really bright colors, but it also has a Lego heart. And the people are like, oh, that heart is so cool. And it has a heart. I picked that piece specifically because people with dementia, they need a lot of love, but they can still give a lot of love too. And the same thing for caregivers. On that worst caregiving day, you certainly want to feel loved and, be loved. And sometimes, especially if it's your parent or your spouse, and they can no longer show love in the way they had in the past, at least you got that little Lego brick to help you along the way. And so I have that, and it's by far everybody's favorite piece in the kit for sure. So that's kind of how that came about too. But the fidget toys were, a saving grace for us. I think whenever we were somewhere where it wasn't convenient to have an entire bag of bricks and nowhere to pour it out on the table so she could build or anything, such as the doctor's office or the grocery store line or, Walmart or wherever you are, where you might have to wait a little bit before, you could check out or leave or whatever. So yeah, that's, how it came about. And it was a wonderful strategy, actually.
So where can people get your kit?
So right now, that's such a great question. And we are working on that right now to be able to purchase the kits from my website. So, we hope to have that up and running later this spring. But how it typically works, if I'm doing a session for an adult day program or a memory care facility, I'm a national speaker for Artist Senior Living. So any of those kinds of locations where you go, the Lego kit comes with the facilitation of the session. So that's how you get them right now. But I've been surprised, I have to say, that people have wanted the kits. I don't want to say without the facilitation, but that they would want to buy them independently as well. So just to be honest, I hadn't thought of that. And so, I just show up with all these kits and pass them out, and we build a whole lot of stuff. So it's cool that, so we are working on getting that added to my website, LorettaVeney.com. So that's going to be a really great addition as well. So thanks for asking about that.
Oh, well, I have a follow-up question on that one, because I love what you do. I'm just so hooked. Ever since we met, I am so hooked on this. And one of the things that I noticed was you are teaching people, at sessions how to do this. But where, like someone like me who is like taking care of somebody,
Yes.
where would I learn how to do this? I mean, if I wanted to learn from you more, do I go to your website? Do you have a YouTube channel? What do you have to teach people like me?
So I am gonna do. I do have a YouTube channel. I haven't really used it for that, and I'm also going to be doing that, sharing with people how to do that. So we're working on that as as well. Just honestly, I have done so sort of some one-on-one family things. I've gone back and forth with emails for people, and giving them little tips. And so for right now, what I share with people is that in the early stages, you can pretty much build pretty much anything. Let's build our favorite memory, our favorite vacation spot, our favorite first home. I've had couples build their dream home. When people are first diagnosed, one of the biggest things I have people build is their bucket list. I think we may not intend to, but I think we're so traumatized by the diagnosis at times, we sort of, put the person over here in the corner and just sit there. We don't want to talk about it much. But, just because somebody's diagnosed with dementia doesn't mean their bucket list goes out the window. As a matter of fact, you just want to speed it up a little. And so I always ask, what's still on your bucket list? And they come up with these amazing things. I still want to travel. I want to go to Dubai. I want to see my, grandkids graduate from high school, all of these kinds of things that people still want to be able to do. And I want to provide that outlet for that. So, it's really anything in the early stages, kind of anything goes. You go to Walmart or Target and you buy a little, and here's the thing. You want to buy one of those boxes they call the classic box. They have it in both the small Lego bricks, but also the larger Duplo bricks, which, my mother could do both because we had been using them for years. And I do want to say that they do work together. I meant to have this out before we got online, but one of the things that's cool about these are the Duplo bricks. And so these are, great for people who have some dexterity issues. So I would say have both on hand if you're going to buy, just buy a small little classic kit. And what a classic kit is, it just has brightly colored bricks like these with no instructions. So instructions are everybody's worst nightmare for somebody with cognitive issues. Let's just say that. So don't go out. Now, I know Lego has an adult series with these beautiful botanical flowers. That's not going to work with anybody with any kind of cognitive thing. They'll tear the book in half and be really frustrated. It's not what we want. We want to let them use their art, their creativity, their hands. Lego has a saying, think with your hands. And it's a phenomenal thing, and people do it, and it works amazingly well. So a classic box has no instructions. It's all about the imagination, and you do that. And so, but as it progresses, you just let them do what they want. I'll show up at a adult day place or one of those continuing care things. And when I work with people with the late stages, you always want to have the Duplos so they don't put anything in their mouth. In the early stages, one of the things that was cool about it is that, you can leave them with the kit. You can go unload the dishwasher or fold some laundry, all that. When they start to progress into the middle and late stages, do not leave them alone with a lot of Lego bricks, especially not the little pieces where, it comes apart. You don't want to do that. And because, and Lego has some pieces that have rounded ends and which would look like a pill to someone with, cognitive issues. So you don't want to do that. So, just truthfully, you don't need a lot of lesson. Lego Serious Play, yes, it's a specific thing. It has steps to it. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughter, a lot of emotion. Sometimes there's tears as well. And that we think there's just something about, especially if you're a caregiver and you're talking about, this is me and I'm exhausted. I don't think I can do another thing. And sometimes there's a lot of emotion that goes around that bit. And there's something about holding this 3D representative of how exhausted you are as a caregiver or how frustrated you are as a person with dementia, that sometimes there are tears as well. And so, it doesn't take a lot of lessons or teaching. It's just really about being creative. And when they get to the late stage, I just pour the bricks on the table and it's like, build what makes you happy. Okay. And they go for it. And so, not a lot of rules, not a lot of things to remember. It really is about having fun. The only thing I can really promise my mother when she was diagnosed, just to be honest, is that, you don't know how the journey is going to go. And the only thing I could promise her that I knew I could control was that we were going to have joy every day. And we did that. And, even the last day of her life, she had Lego bricks in her hand, and that's how I'm going to die. I'd be really happy. And so you can't ask for more than that. So I did my job, for that 16 years. And, she laughed. And even when my name became Very Nice Person, she still knew I was a person that loved her and cared for her. And, she would always say, "You're here." And then you get the bricks out and she says, "Yay." And what's funny about the Lego bricks, if you don't like it, if she didn't say "yay" or "that's pretty," we did something else, you just take it apart. And then she would put it, "That's better." or with the little house, I have some little gray-haired people, and I had a little gray-haired person simulated her in this house. And even when she was 92, she could still open the doors and windows, and she would look in and she would see the little gray-haired person. She says, "I'm still in there." You're like, "Yes." You are. And so I saved the house and everything. I will always have that house. But it's so funny. In one move, you can do it all kinds of ways. There are millions of ways you can put together 2 Lego bricks. And so you can do it over and over and over and never produce the same thing. And that's the beauty of it too, because, all kinds of media, came to see it, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. And so you're amazed at how, she liked other things too. It's not the only activity we did. However, never had the focus on other things as she did with it. I mean, just her little face, she methodically had to put it together. And she would say, "I did that." Yes, you did that. And we would, and it's so cool because, when we were little, our parents put all that ugly stuff we made up on the refrigerator, the little drawings we did. And I was always showing people what she did. And that was how the LinkedIn, Facebook thing started. I started putting all the things that she built. People were like, "Wow." And I made these Lego puzzles, 3 and 4 pieces that had designs on them, and she could push them. And, a couple of weeks before she died, she was still doing that. And she never should have been able to look at shapes and create, actually put the shapes back together. She really shouldn't have been able to do that. And so it was stunning for people to watch that. And, the focus, that she had. And, the reason I started doing it is just so selfish, because that blank stare drove me crazy. And so I couldn't deal with that. And she never had that with it. And what's funny, when the New York Times photographer came, he got there, my mother was doing some kind of puzzle. And she's like so unfocused, the blank stare. And he's looking at me like, "I thought you said she was, with it or whatever," right? So he's a little exasperated. And so he's interviewing me. And when he finishes interviewing me, he's been in my house about an hour. And then he finally says, so exasperated, "Well, let me see the Lego bricks, like I came all this way and she ain't doing anything, So I pour the Lego bricks out. And she starts instantly clicking them together. And then she sees the man who has been in my house for an hour. And she says, "Oh, hello." Like he just walked in. She says, "Oh, man, I thought you made that up." He was like, and yeah, it was that way. And I know people thought I did make that up. But it was amazing how she would just come alive and I, I'm not a researcher, I'm not a scientist. It's funny, we were talking about George Washington University before we started, and I got my master's degree there in criminal justice and forensic science. And so, but I'm not a science researcher kind of thing. So when people kept saying, "Well, why can she do that?" I don't know. And truthfully, I didn't care, only because I didn't care. The reason wasn't important for me. It was just really about the joy. I didn't care why she could do it. She just did it, and I loved it, and I kept doing it, and I wanted other people to experience it too. So one of the things that we were also talking about, I spoke at Morgan State University this past week, and a lot of scientists and amazing students in that group. And I was sharing with them the photos and everything of, how I had been doing this work. And they asked some amazing questions, but there were a lot of, researchers who said, "Oh, I'd love to work with you to kind of see, how their brain works at that point. It was like a brain, center kind of thing. And it was amazing. And, and this, I'm very interested to look into some of those things, but at the time it was going on, that just wasn't a top priority for me. It's not that I didn't care necessarily, but I got what I wanted out of it for us and what I promised her, and that was joy. And so it wasn't really important, the why and how kind of thing, just that it was a thing. So yeah, that made all the difference in the world.
That is so amazing. The fact that you were able to keep your connection for that long, I can tell you from experience how long it was after my dad stopped talking that I got nothing except for
Yes.
noises
Yes.
or just, him staring off into space. So the
Yes.
fact that you were able to keep keep your mother that connected all the way up until just before she passed away.
Mm-hmm. And it was really hard to, explain. And it's it's so amazing because I'd say for the last year, and we never figured this out either, for the last year, she would say thousands of times a day. Now we're Episcopalian, and, so we don't, there's not a lot of the Bible reading, verse memory, all that stuff. So, but my mother would say 1,000 times a day, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, like over and over and over and over and over. And everybody just got used to it. But again, one of the things that we also noticed is that she hardly ever said it while she was building with the Lego bricks. And so again, it's just one of those things that really worked well, for me. So it was great. It was absolutely great.
So kind of on that same vein, in your book, you talk about patience and getting patience. Let's talk about patience.
Yeah. One of the things that it was there were 5 or 6 things that we talked about and about how to build patience. And one of them was, sort of changing your attitude. And I knew to do that. I hated dementia with a passion when she was diagnosed, just really hated it. But I found, eternally, I wasn't feeling that good because, you can't hold all that anger in. And so I had to let go of a lot of that. And so one of the things is change your attitude about whatever it is that you're facing. And so, yeah, it's still there, but that's when I, sort of switched to the joy. We're going to just focus on the joy of it. And yeah, there were a lot of ugly days, no question about that, and not trying to sugarcoat that in any way. But that was one of the first steps in, when you let go a lot of the anger, that automatically helps you build the patience because you're not focused on that one thing. So I definitely, changed my attitude and, all of that about it. And that really went well. And one of the other things is to, sort of visualize yourself being done with whatever the issue is. So, trying to get the keys from dad who doesn't need to be driving anymore, or difficult conversations you have to have with them about moving, just visualize yourself, overcoming it and carrying it out and like, okay. And then you go into it with a much more positive attitude. And that's so funny because sometimes I used to say in my presentations that I would just skip to the whole end of the day. I would just visualize the day being over and people are like, yeah, that was smart. And so, yeah, there's a lot of different strategies that you really have. And, I think our most famous story, from the book is that grocery store line, we were in. And, you never know. This is a perfect example. You never know who is observing you. So we're in this long grocery store line. I don't know what the problem is. And at the time, I was still allowing her to write, checks and sign her name. And so the line's so long. So every few seconds she would say, what's today? What's today? So she could put it on her check. So when it was finally time for us to get to the counter and, when you put your little thing down and write your check, she asked one last time, what's today? And all these other exasperated people in the line all yell out, it's the 17th, really exasperated with my mother. And so my mother looks at me, she has such a great sense of humor. And she says, I guess I asked you that before, huh? And I was like, just a few times. And so we're laughing hysterically. We get our groceries and we're leaving. And this woman literally runs up behind me. And she's like, oh, excuse me, I have to talk to you. And she says, oh my gosh, I learned so much from you in that line. She says, but you have to just tell me, do you know how many times your mother asked you the date? And I was like, no. And she was like, 30 times. And you didn't say, don't ask me that. Shut up. I just told you that. You didn't raise your voice. She said, I'm so mean to my mother. And I learned so much from you in that line. And it's funny because you want to say, please don't ask me that anymore. But, I never said it. You're thinking it, but you certainly don't say it. And I also can do more than one thing at a time. So in that grocery store line, I'm reading the headlines of the National Enquirer and everything else at the checkout, looking at the candy. I'm doing all that stuff. So every time she would say, what's the day? I would be reading who's sleeping with who on the National Enquirer and what kind of candy bars on sale. And I just answered her. She's my mother. She asked me a question and I answer it. It was as simple as that. I would pretend it was the first time she asked me. So that's what I would say.
Oh, that is so amazing.
It is. And it was always no matter where we were, Walmart, McDonald's. Well, my mother never had been to a McDonald's before dementia. And then we went all the time. And she would always say, have I been here before? And they would say, see you next week, Miss Doris. She would say, okay, and off we go. And so people just got used to it. I wasn't going to keep her at home because she repeated the same stuff over and over. If you were embarrassed, that's on you. And so I wasn't going to hide my mother from people because of that. But I also recognized it was always the number one comment we got. You are fabulous with your mother. And I would always say, oh, thank you, and, especially if we were in like the Walmart line, she would say these outrageous things, and she would say, I forgot my purse. I don't have any money. I said, that's okay. I would pay for it. And then she would look at the other people. My daughter would pay for yours too. I'm like, no, I didn't say that. Don't you be volunteering me for that. Or like she went through this food phase where she would tell people they don't feed me. I'm like, stop it before people call social services on us, So I would show all these I would take all these pictures of us eating to show you just had lunch, So I mean, and a lot of it was funny and people loved our attitude about it. We probably should have had a very successful, we could have had an amazing TikTok channel when she first was diagnosed, because she was hysterical. She could have been a stand-up comedian if she didn't have dementia. And so we just tried to see the joy in all of it. But there were, like you said, some horrible times, but I wasn't going to hide her in the corner or do any of that. And again, because you don't know who's watching, we went to a Walgreens once to get a prescription, then we were going to get ice cream. And all of a sudden, standing in the parking lot, my mother throws her skirt up over her head, showing all her little, things. And what's funny is that, remember when we were little, our parents would say, always wear clean underwear in case you get hit by a car. Well, she had on the cute little Depends that had some flowers on it. It was so hysterical. And I'm looking around and like, oh my God, please don't let other people be looking. So I'm trying to put her skirt back down, and then all of a sudden, this other woman comes running at me with her arms out like she wants a hug. I don't know this woman, but I'm going to play along. So I hold my hands out, we hug. And then she says, honey, I'm right there with you. Last week, my husband dropped his pants in Walgreens and we hugged again like we'd have known each other our whole lives. And see, you never know, who's watching or, like, oh, I've been there, girl. And so it's so hysterical. You meet all these people you never would have met in your life. And we had our little hugging moment and then we left. And we went and got our ice cream and forgot that whole thing ever happened. But, when these embarrassing kind of things come, you just have to have the right attitude about it. And that increases your level of patience too. And one of the most amazing things about patience now with the Lego Serious Play is that this woman said, oh, I'm so mean to my husband. He's up all night and I'm not sleeping. He wanders all night and I'm yelling at him from the bedroom, come back to bed, which he doesn't do. So I said, well, next time he wanders, you get up and build with your Lego kit. You build patience. And I never really thought she'd do it. She sent me a picture. She said, look, I didn't yell at him at all last night. He got up, he did a circle, he does what he always does. And he said the whole time, I built and built. And then, he tires himself out and he goes back to bed. Then she got into bed too. She said, I didn't yell one time. And so she sent her picture of patience. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh, Loretta.
It's a cool story. Yeah.
That is so cool.
It is cool. It is cool. And so I tell, the last thing I say to people at the end of a Lego Serious Play session is keep building. Take it apart. You don't feel this same way today, that you feel tomorrow, you do that or that. And so the Lego bricks are yours to continue to build. Don't just put the bag in a corner and leave it. Always use it to, my friends call it Lego therapy. They're like, oh, I had a bad day, girl. I need to come over for some Lego therapy. Like, okay, come on. And so, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Well, our time is up,
Yes.
but I cannot thank you enough for coming today.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was so much fun talking with you.
Oh, well, until next time, I want to thank you, Loretta, for joining us, and also want to thank the audience for joining us. And we'll be back again on May 23rd. And our next guest will be Joe Hillier from Home Watch Caregivers.
Awesome.
And we'll be discussing how to keep your loved one in your home. And in the meantime, you can go over to our YouTube channel on USA Global TV and Radio and look for the Dementia Home Care playlist and find all the shows we've done there. So see you next time, everybody.
Thank you.